All right, we'd like to welcome you to the Friday main event preview show, 4A edition, Lee Teat. This is the fourth in a series of 6 shows we'll be doing, and we've gotten a little feedback from our first show, so I'm going to go ahead and preface this show with a couple of things. If we mispronounce your kid's name, we really didn't mean to do it.
Yeah, we try to take it serious. We're not trying to do anybody wrong here.
Well, we're not making a lot of money at this, are we, Lee?
No,
Matter of
sir.
fact, 0, correct? So we don't want to upset any parents. We try to do the names correctly, so we'll do the best we can. So just bear with us. But like I said, man, it's Friday main event, 4A edition, and Lee, we usually start these shows kind of talking about last year. And last year, I mean, you need to go no further than Greenville, Tennessee, and it was all about the Green Devils last year.
Yeah, Kane Ballard, great coach, great facilities. Nothing bad you can say about that program. It's class act all the way around. And if I was a kid, I'd love to play for him.
Yeah, me too, Lee. And there was 2 teams up there in East Tennessee that entered the postseason last year, undefeated, Anderson County and Greenville. And, of course, Elizabethton's in that region with Greenville. So we knew those were the – matter of fact, if I remember correctly, Lee, I think that was our top 3 teams. Ironically, in the first 2 regions in the state, we had our top 3 teams. And you couldn't make an argument those weren't the 3 best teams at the end of the year, I would say.
Oh, I definitely think they were the best 3 teams.
So Greenville battles through the region, wins the region, enter the playoffs 10-0. Anderson County the same 10-0. And the 2 teams wind up, Lee, meeting in the quarterfinals as expected. I think Anderson County gets a lead on Greenville, maybe unexpected to most people, but Stanton Martin gets injured, correct?
Yes, sir. It goes down with an ACL late in the first quarter. I think he actually tried to play through that.
Right.
But, that could have been, 4-point difference. He's a little gimpy.
35-31, I think the final was.
The final. Martin going down. I'm sure that affected Anderson County because that guy's good.
And a lot of people think that was probably the championship game right there in the quarterfinals. But Greenville wins nonetheless. They wind up facing Marshall County over here in Lewisburg. Our buddy Thomas Osteen, he had a very good team as well. Always puts out a good product. One of the best young coaches. You and I brag on Coach Osteen a lot. But they fell to Greenville there in the semifinals, 49-24. And then Greenville advances to the state title. A little surprise on the other side of the bracket, though.
Very surprised. Springfield entered the playoffs 7-3. Mm-hmm. I don't think anybody saw that.
Right.
They just got on a roll and got some balls to bounce their way and ended up in the title game.
And then you had a Haywood at 8-2 entering their Region 7 winners. And then you had Memphis East, who are coming off a state title in the last couple of years. So Memphis East with a good squad. They wind up getting upset by Dyersburg in the first round. Haywood County advances as everybody expected them to. Wound up getting in that semifinal with Springfield, as you mentioned, 35-28. Springfield pulls the upset. Springfield just battled all the way through the playoffs. They didn't really blow anybody out. I think it was a 1-point lead over Jackson Southside, but that team just had a lot of fight in them, Lee.
Yeah, they beat Lexington by 4, Jackson Southside by 1. They faced Haywood, beat them by a touchdown. They just battled.
They were gritty team. But it was a good trip to the finals. I don't think whoever came on the west side of the bracket had any prayer against Greenville.
No. Like we said, we had 3 of the top 3 teams coming up out of the East, and I still feel that way.
Yeah, I do too. And Lee, let's go ahead and talk about 2018 because I'm not sure a whole lot's going to change in 4A this year.
I don't think so either.
If you start up in Region 1, of course, you got to talk about Greenville, Kane Ballard's team. He's got his son, Cade Ballard, who is the preseason All-State Mr. Football winner, returning. Kind of reminds us of Dresser Wynn at Dresden a couple of years ago, coming back as the Mr. Football winner and leading his team to the title. I think you got to pick Greenville as your favorite, don't you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Region 1, Greenville hands down right now, I think is the odds-on favorite, and probably in most people's polls, odds-on favorite to repeat in the title game. You can't say enough about Cade Ballard.
8 returners on both sides, Lee. I agree with you. Cade is the guy that drives that team, but he's got a lot of talent around him, doesn't he?
Oh, man, Logan Shipley, 6'2", 245, 55 tackles for a loss. Cameron Height, Darian Goddard. O-line's huge. I mean, they just look like a college
Cameron
team.
Height. I mean, a lot of these guys have already committed to BCS schools.
Yeah,
so
Chris Everhart.
Yeah, you could go on and on. I like the Green Devils. And I love Kane Ballard. And, Lee, we got an invitation to head up there, and we are going to go, I think it's October the 12th, I believe, their game with Elizabethton. I expect that to be for that Region 1 title, so we're really looking forward to heading up there. Speaking of Elizabethton, Sean Wooden, another solid team. He's got 8 starters back on offense, 6 on defense. And he's got a heck of a quarterback there in Carter Everett as well.
Oh, it's crazy. He's crazy good. You put Elizabethton in any other region, they walk away.
Yeah.
Everett had, 2,800 yards last year, 34 TDs, All-State.
Right.
Evan Perkins, that's probably his main target. And then Corey Russell at running back, over 1,000 yards, 18 TDs. So Coach Witten is not hurting for talent. It's just he's got that Greenville Green Devils there.
Yeah, it's tough. Like you said, I think if you put Elizabethton or Anderson County on the west side of the state, they walk to the title game, in my opinion.
I agree.
Sullivan South, another team in that region, they've got 7 starters back on both sides of the ball. Justin Hilton, the head coach there, 9-12 in 2 years at Sullivan South. They were knocked out by Chattanooga Central, Lee, in the first round. Real close game, 45-42. 4-2 last year in region play, and again they took the only 2 losses were to Elizabethton and Greenback. So Sullivan South, good squad.
Yeah, real good. Like you said, 4-2 in the region, 7-4 overall. Mason Armstrong, linebacker, running back, senior.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like they got quite a bit of junior and senior leadership coming back. Probably I see them at the 3 spot again.
I'd say you're probably right. Luke Pollock at quarterback, the senior there, so he'll be expected to lead that team. Granger, another good team there in Region 1, finished 7-4, 3-3. Knocked out of the matter of fact, they put up 40 points on Anderson County in the first round, Lee. So you got to be impressed with that.
They can score. Preston Owens can wing it around. They run the kind of a spread option attack. So they're going to put points on the board. Just can they stop them?
Right. Yeah, that's the question mark. Mark Lemke is running back, and like we said, 6 starters back on offense, 7 on defense. So I think Granger, another good team. Region 1 has got a lot of good teams.
Yes, they do.
Looking on down Sullivan East, the Patriots, Mike Locke's team, he's 36-38 in 7 years there. They've got Seth Dalton back at running back. They got Dylan White at quarterback, Corbin Patrick, another running back. So they got some senior leadership. Got some youth as well. Again, Dalton, only a sophomore, Lee.
Yeah, Dalton's a sophomore and White's a junior, so he's got some returners. Coach Locke, next year and the year after that, got some kids that are going to have
some building blocks,
yes,
doesn't
sir.
it? Yep. Union County also in there, 3-7, 1-5. They've got 8 starters back on both sides of the ball, Lee. Colby Dawson, one of the leaders on that defensive side of the ball, senior. Dalton Tron, another wide receiver, DB, expected to be a leader on that team.
Yep, 8-8 coming back, 8 on each side of the ball. So,
they're in a tough region.
They're tough.
They're not moving up.
Yeah, I don't know that they can improve. I know they now run the double wing under Coach Kerr. Hey, maybe you can just keep the ball away from everybody.
That's the plan.
That's all you can do.
That's all you got to have that mindset going up against a high potent offense like Greenville and Elizabethton anyway. Play keep away. That's all you
can do.
Just hope you're around at the end. And there's not many teams going to be this year as they weren't last year. Sullivan Central, the last place team in that region, 0-10, 0-6. They've got 7 back on offense, 6 on defense. Jackson Harrison, the senior, returns at quarterback. Marshall Carter, one of his main targets. Lee, I don't think there's any place for them to move up here in this tough region.
Yeah, you hate to see that too because they got a lot of seniors. You'd like to see those kids go out. Maybe they can improve on the 0-10.
Well, they're 0-20, Lee. They haven't won a game in 2 years. So
I don't know.
Tough situation there at Sullivan Central. Moving on down to Region 2, Lee, Anderson County, Dave Gillum, another really good squad, 8 starters back on offense, 7 on defense. A highlighter is Stanton Martin, 4,500 total yards last year. He was responsible himself for 55 TDs, All-State. What's your thoughts on Anderson County?
That's crazy numbers, man. Some teams don't score 55 touchdowns
as a team. Right.
I like Ryan Moog. He's a do-it-all kid. Trey No, All-State offensive, defensive lineman.
Now I think we heard Martin was injured, right?
Oh yeah, broke his leg.
July.
In June, yeah. I think he broke his leg. They're expecting him to be back by opener.
I think Moog is a possibility at quarterback if he's not able to make that opener.
That's right.
We read, but Martin, tough break for that kid. He's went through a lot of injuries, Lee, but hopefully he'll be ready to go at the start of the season.
He's tough.
They're going to be hurting without him, no doubt, as much offense as he's provided. Chattanooga Central, Kurt Jones, new head coach there. He served at Notre Dame as a defensive coordinator the last 3 years, so he's got a good coaching pedigree. The Pounders, I love the Pounders. That's one of my favorite.
Yeah. Purple Pounders.
Yeah, I absolutely love that name. 7 kids back on offense and 9 on defense. So he's got the squad. He's got an all-state running back, Mike McGahee, back. So you may see the Pounders make some noise here in the playoffs, Lee.
I think so. I definitely say, they're probably, second place team in that region for sure. They'll get a good playoff standings. They'll go in and have a good first-round game. We'll see, but it's always nice to come in when you got an all-state running back.
Right, and then you got Sequoia in that region as well. The Chiefs, Bobby White's team, 11-20 in 3 years there at Sequoia, 5-6 last year. They were 3-3 in the region league, knocked out by Elizabethton in the first round. But they scored a lot of points on Elizabethton. I know it was 35. They put up 35 on Elizabethton there in that first-round matchup. So with 7 starters back on offense, you got to figure they're going to be able to generate some points anyway.
I think so. They run a multiple, too, and John Douglas Wiggins, senior quarterback, Josh Stakely, running back, the senior, Trevor Stakely, wide receiver, senior. So you got a lot of senior leadership.
And Lee, looking at East Ridge, Tim James is 69 and 91 overall, 14-10 in his 2 years. Took Tracy Malone's place there a couple of years ago. He's got the Pioneers playing pretty good, 7-4, very respectable record last year. 3-3 in the region. Of course, they were knocked out by Greenville. You want to stay out of those bottom 2 spots in this region. You got Greenville and Elizabethton waiting on you in the first round. 56-7, they lose to Greenville, but they've got 5 starters back on offense, 6 on defense. Alonzo Russell is listed an athlete, really good prospect for them.
Yeah, they got Russell, Nico Johanican as an athlete, Joey Bowles, an offensive lineman to look at over there, and Trey Jett at linebacker tight end.
Another team, Lee, with a name that I like, and that's the Hustlin Tigers. They're not just the Tigers, they're the Hustlin Tigers. And that's, of course, we're talking about Howard. Howard moved up from 2A recently, all the way up to 4A. And John Starr, 136 and 113 overall, 8-13 in 3 years there at Howard. Lee, they were 4-6, 2-4 in this Region 2 last year. Got a lot of kids back.
Well, what I like is they got 11 on the defensive side of the ball coming back.
Mm-hmm.
8 coming back on the offensive side of the ball. A lot of juniors and seniors. We're always, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but it's so important, that senior leadership.
Right.
Can Coach Starr squeak in? Twan
Billups, running back, linebacker. He's one of the leaders. Quez Williams, Lee, be playing quarterback for them. They've got a possibility, 2-4. So, you got to put them in as a possibility of getting a playoff spot this year. East Hamilton, the Hurricanes, Ted Gatewood, 48-53 in 9 years there at East Hamilton. And that squad, he's had some success over the years, but last year not so much. 3-7, 2-4 in the region. 4 returning starters on offense, 7 on defense. Lee, what do you see out of the Hurricanes?
I don't really see them moving up any. I just think that 4A on that side is very top-heavy in Region 1 and Region 2.
Right. They do have Sam Randolph back, senior running back, plays in the defensive secondary as well. Adam Cottle. Am I saying that right,
Yes,
Lee?
sir.
I don't want no mama jumping on me on Twitter again this week. But, yeah, that's a couple of kids that they'll be leaning on in that defense to keep them on track. Hickson Wildcats, the last team in this region. Gary Murray, head coach, didn't win a game last year, Lee. His first year at Hickson, he was the offensive coordinator under Dan Duff. I believe, for some reason, I'm thinking Duff is still on the staff helping him out. But at any rate, 0-10, 0-6, 5 returning starters on offense, 6 on defense. Landon Wallace, I think, is the headliner here.
Yeah, it looks like he plays multiple positions. Malachi Wise, a linebacker, fullback kid, Christian Hedges, Christian Turner, and Hector Nunez.
So does Hickson pick a win up this year?
No. Well, they may get a win. I don't know about
it. Might be out of region if they get one.
Yeah,
so.
I don't know about in region.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Lee, well, that's regions 1 and 2. We're going to go ahead and take our first break right here. I know our listeners are going to love hearing from our buddy, Kane Ballard. We did an interview with him following that 2017 title game. Big year for the Ballards, Mr. Football win, a state championship. So you can tell Coach Ballard very excited in this interview. So we'll take a break now and let you guys hear that. Mike Molder, Friday Main Event with Coach K. Ballard. Coach, how's it feel?
Well, it's sweet. It's always sweet. It doesn't matter what year it is or they're all sweet. But super proud of the guys tonight.
3 titles in 8 years. The only one you've had with Cade Ballard leading the team. How was that?
Well, it's special. They're all special, but to see him play the way he did tonight and do the things he did was special. But we got a lot of special players and a special group of guys. They've been together a long time.
Coach, you got a lot of juniors on the team. I thought one senior, Seth Crawford, had a great game for you today.
As he has all year, huge for him tonight. Those 2 picks, especially the first one there, was big. He's been big for us all year. Cade's probably his top target, the last couple of years. So Seth's got a lot to do with that Mr. Football title for Cade. He had a great career for us.
That was my next question. Big week for you guys. Cade obviously getting the Mr. Football award, now the state title here. You couldn't imagine a better week than this, could you?
I don't think so. I've reflected on that a little bit this week and today, and just blessed, no doubt about it.
Coach, I appreciate you joining us this year, and congratulations. We hope to see you again next year.
Hey, thanks for including us over there. We're glad to do it. Let's do it again.
We'll definitely do that. We're going to come see you, too.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach. This year, I'm like you. I'm really looking forward to that. So, Lee, that's Regions 1 and 2. We're going to jump right back in. We're covering Region 3 now. And Region 3 is a region that you've got a lot of knowledge about. Livingston Academy, Bruce Lamb's squad, 4-0 in the region last year. They wound up falling in the first round. Matter of fact, I believe Region 3 got swept in the first round lead by Region 4. Livingston Academy lost to the 4th seed, Nolensville, 21-14. Coach Lamb's Wildcat squad does return 6 starters on offense, 7 on defense. Cole Spears, big offensive lineman, will be the leader up front. Only a junior, but a really good-looking player, along with Wesley Smith, also a junior. He's got some talent.
Yeah, Will McDonald, I think, is going to be the starting quarterback up there. He's a junior. Dylan Cantrell's an offensive lineman, linebacker kid, senior. The thing about Livingston Academy, I don't think they have just what you would consider this excellent, outstanding all-state player. But, man, every one of those kids can play. And
Right.
they're very athletic, blue-collar kind of team.
Mm-hmm. Well, moving on down, Lee, Macon County took second place in that region, and they've got new leadership. Kyle Shoulders, who was with Coach Creasy at Oakland last year. He was also a head coach at Red Bowling Springs, takes over. And I think that was a really good hire, in my opinion, for the Tigers.
Great hire.
Yeah.
Coach Shoulders is a Macon County guy.
Mm-hmm.
When he was at Red Bowling Springs, they were actually winning ball games up there. So that tells you what his ability
That's
is.
a big statement considering they had the longest losing streak in the nation at one point.
Yeah,
in time.
they won ball games with him there, and he's got 3 kids on either side of the ball coming back. But I think he likes what he's seeing coming up, especially with Ethan Jenkins, running back, is a sophomore. Mark Gammons, his quarterback's a junior.
Okay. And again, they were 3-1 last year. They fell to Spring Hill there in the first round. So I'm with you, Lee. I'm expecting big things out of the Tigers, if not this year, in the years to come, with a really good head coach, Kyle Shoulders there. Stone Memorial, of course, our buddy Mark Wartenberger has moved over out of that position now. Derek Samber takes over the offensive coordinator at Cookeville last season with your buddy Jimmy Maynard, and my buddy, but he was your buddy before he was my buddy. The Panthers, Lee, 7 back on both sides of the ball. Not as good a season. I think they'd run the table maybe the last 2 years in a row undefeated through the regular season. Fell to 4-7 overall last year. 7 back on both sides of the ball. What do you think about the Panthers this year?
I like Coach Samber. I think offensively you're going to see some improvement from the last year. He's a very good offensive mind, and I know he's a tough-minded guy. When he was at York, they were a very physical team, and he's got a lot of weapons.
Mm-hmm. And some of those weapons, Thomas Arnold, quarterback, Lee, Jeremy Lloyd is a defensive lineman. They've got a lot of linemen returning, which is always a good thing. Will Delk, solid linebacker, plays tight end on offense. Ethan Norris at running back. So a lot of skill, a lot of talent back. Again, 14 starters. I think Stone Memorial probably make some improvement this year.
I think so.
DeKalb County, Steve Trapp, a good buddy of mine, Steve Trapp, he loves DeKalb County. And Lee, I think you actually coached against him in Pee Wee football.
I
did you not?
coach against him in Pee Wee football.
And that's a great story because DeKalb County is a long-suffering program. Coach Steve Trapp, very passionate about it. He approached the faculty there and said, hey, I don't have the background you typically see for a head coach, but I think I can get the job done. He came in. He was actually selected as the Tennessee Titans Coach of the Week a couple of times. Of course, I think that's when he had Stephen Jennings there at quarterback. But he's a good coach.
Well, he's always had good quarterbacks. He develops them. And this year, he's got Axel Aldino, who's a quarterback, but he's just a sophomore.
Okay.
But even with that sophomore quarterback, the coaches poll, if you look at the coaches poll, a lot of guys have DeKalb County winning that.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So, good. I like to hear that because, like I say, I'm a big fan of Steve Trapp's. He was one of the first guys I had on my show when he first got that job. Cumberland County, Lee, 0-10 last season, 0-4 obviously in the region. Ken Johnson, 6-25 in 3 years. Hadn't had a lot of luck, a lot of success there for the Jets.
I don't see much changing. Even though they do have 9 kids coming back on offense and 7 on D, I just think the top 4 teams are quite a bit better.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
That region's going to be wide open.
It is wide open. Who you like? Who, if I pinned you down and made you pick a team right now, who would you pick?
I would probably take Livingston first, then DeKalb.
Then DeKalb.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay, good deal. I may revisit this later on to see how good you do with that. Region 4, Lee, and we just mentioned that's a very, very good region, and a lot of our local folks, Marshall County and Tullahoma, 2 teams down here local to us in this region. And matter of fact, I did a radio show with a station in Winchester earlier today, Lee, and we were talking about this, and he was asking me what Tullahoma's chances are this year, and I told him I think even though Tullahoma should be better this year, man, they're in a really tough region this year.
Man, Marshall County, Maplewood,
Spring Hill. It's there's a lot of good teams in this region. You got Nolensville as well. We'll go ahead and start at the top with Marshall County, Lee, and that's Tom Sostein. We talked about him a little bit. What do you think about the quarterback loss? How's that going to affect them?
I think it'll affect them some, but I tell you what, Coach Osteen, man, Ja'Shawn Wilcox, that D tackle offensive lineman he's got.
Stud, isn't he?
Stud.
Yeah.
I mean, stud. That guy had 62 tackles for a loss 62 tackles, 10 for a loss, and 4 quarterback sacks, and he plays defensive tackle.
Wow.
He's not even in.
That's big numbers right there for the guy in the middle, isn't it?
Yeah, he's crazy good, and I think their tailback situation is going to be good. And you know what? Coach Osteen, he's a winner. He's going to find a way to win.
I agree with you. And the quarterback we're referring to is Bryce Wallace. If you caught our 3A preview shows, Bryce Wallace transfers to Giles County. 3-year starter there. 2-year starter. I think he come in behind Ashton Posey his freshman year, but I believe sophomore, junior year he started. And that's a huge loss when you got a guy coming in, which would have been a 3-year starter. You lose him to the senior year, and you lose him late, Lee. They already had done all their spring ball, and I think they had done the 7-on-7, and then all of a sudden they find out Bryce is leaving. So I know Coach Osteen was shocked at the news as much or more than we were.
Yeah, he should have been.
Yeah.
I was shocked at it, but like I said, I like Coach Osteen. He's young, he's
man,
fresh.
We love him, man. He's a regular on the show. We love him.
And Marshall County is a good program.
It is. Lee, Maplewood actually, I'm sure they were pretty happy with the news that Bryce Wallace leaves. They've got a good quarterback of their own, Bo Hodges, who was a preseason All-State, and I think in your Murphy Fair magazine, he's also listed as a preseason All-State senior. He's good, and he's got a new target to throw to, Lee Teat. He's got Kendall Scurry, who comes over from Independence. Yeah, Scott Blade squad. So they're going to be deadly on offense this year, man.
They are. They're really good. And I tell you, the kid that probably doesn't get enough props for Maplewood, Coach Broom, is David Sutherland. Mm-hmm. He's a running back. He's a sophomore this year.
Right.
Last year as a freshman, he had 1,000 yards rushing and 1,600 yards total offense.
Wow.
As a freshman.
Pretty impressive.
Don't expect anything except for his numbers to go up, and then you throw Bobo Hodges and now Kendrell Scurry. Maplewood might push out of the West.
I think you just about have to favor them, to be honest with you, Lee, with Bryce Wallace leaving. Now, we had Marshall County favored to win that region, but you never know what's going to happen to a team when they lose a quarterback that's been the guy for 3 years. I think you'd have to give the edge right now preseason to Maplewood. That's not to say that they'll win it, but based on what they got coming back, I think you'd have to favor them, wouldn't you?
Yes, sir.
Spring Hill, new head coach Ben Martin, he played at Spring Hill for that 86 title team they had, Lee. He's been an assistant there for 3 years. That was probably a really good hire, I believe, for the Raiders. 6-6 last year, 3-2. They got knocked out by Marshall County in the second round again. As we mentioned, Region 4 swept Region 3, so there's a lot of two-time matchups here. You know, all the teams had seen each other earlier in the season. 9 starters back on offense, 7 on defense. Huge transfer pickup for these guys.
Big transfer with Bubba Johnson coming in from Page. 2,300 yards and 25 touchdowns over the last 2 years.
And he's only a junior, so they're going to have him for a couple of years.
That was a huge pickup, you know. And speaking of that 86 title team, Coach Martin, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that was the year Papa Wade was the running back there, and he went on to Mississippi State and had a great career. Mm-hmm. So Coach Martin's been around some good dudes, and I think he can coach them up.
Well, I like this squad, Lee, and we're throwing all of our attention on Marshall County and Maplewood, but hey, man, you got to like what you're seeing out of Spring Hill with 9 starters back on offense, 7 on defense. They're gonna be right in the mix, I think, for this region title, and that's what I'm saying. This whole region, top to bottom, is really hard to figure out how it's going to play out.
It's very tough.
Will Hester leaves at Nolensville. He coaches that first year with them. He heads down to Alabama. Paul Derrick. And I spoke with Coach Derrick earlier in the season, former defensive coordinator at both Nolensville and Ravenwood under Coach Hester.
Right.
He takes over as head coach. Nolensville in their first year of varsity football, 4-8. Lee in the regular season, 2-3 in region play, and they did make the playoffs, and they won a playoff game. That's pretty impressive for a first-year program.
I'll tell you what, man. Brandon Wharton, 6'4", 180, number 34 recruit. He's also throwing to an all-state wide receiver in Tim Stayscow. Mm-hmm. Everybody returns, 11-11. They're very experienced.
No seniors last year.
Yeah, very experienced.
And they're senior heavy this year, Lee.
They are. They're very
and
heavy.
all those kids played last year. You got to like them.
Man, It's a tough region.
That's what I said when that guy asked me about how Tullahoma was going to do, and I think Tullahoma is going to be much improved, but where are they going to advance to? Given the fact that this region is so tough, and we'll talk about Tullahoma now, Lee, and John Olive, and we love Coach Olive. We have him on a regular with us on the Friday main event. And he's got 7 starters back on offense, 9 on defense, led by Race Marin, very talented wide receiver. He's also a very good safety. And they got Ty Cox, and then they got Kobe Burks, younger brother of Thomas Burks, who led them last year. I think he was all-region. Kobe looks really good. I saw them in the spring game. I think they may be going to run some Wildcat with him as well at quarterback. So I don't know, man.
Where does he move up? I mean, do you think he can get into that 4 spot, Coach Olive?
I don't know. I don't. With the quarterback question, I think Tommy Fulton, a good friend of mine, his son, I forget his first name. Sorry, Tommy, but his son, I think, is one of the options at quarterback. I don't know that Coach Olive has decided for sure who's going to start, but I know Fulton was a heck of a athlete in high school, and I have no doubt his son is probably right there, probably 1-2 in the quarterback, as far as who's going to get that job. But I think he's got to, first and foremost, he's got to nail down a new quarterback, and who knows, Lee? It's going to be tough.
It's going to be tough.
Lawrence County, 0-5 in the region last year, 2-8 overall. Coach Marston, one of the really good coaches, underrated coaches, Lee. He just hasn't had a lot to work with the last couple of years. They won the Region 5 title when they were in 5A a couple of years, 2 or 3 years ago, I'm not sure, beat Shelbyville to win that title. So, he's 2 years removed from a region championship, but they just hadn't been able to do anything since then.
Yeah, he's got 5 returners on offense and 4 on defense. And, what's his name, Bronson Clanton. Big offensive lineman.
Right.
Gage Stigpens is quarterback. Another senior offensive lineman in Joseph Frazier. Another, offensive line. A lot of seniors. That's always a plus.
Right.
I just don't see Lawrence County moving up.
It's going to be tough for those 2 teams in this 6-team region. It's going to be the 2 teams to advance and get into the playoff. It's going to be really tough, and and that's not an indictment on how good they are or how well they're coached. It's just they're in a very, very tough region.
Yeah, it's crazy tough.
All right, Lee, let's move on down to Region 5. White House, the Blue Devils, Jeff Porter's squad. Comeback of the year, I think it was 0-10 the year before.
Goes 11-1.
Yeah, he goes from 0-10 to 10-0. I would almost bet money that's never been done before. But Coach Porter always does a really good job with that Blue Devil squad. He's 263, 131, and 31 years at White House.
He's a staple in that community. Coach Porter is
future Hall of Famer, no doubt.
Yes, sir. He's got Kobe Jackson and Cameron Casanova. Those are 2 kids to keep your eye on. And this little quarterback, he's not very big, but he's a scat. He can get it too. I fully expect them to be right there in the hunt for Region 5. But this is another region to me that's kind of wide open.
And this is a region you know a lot, being a Greenbrier alum, Lee Teat, John Elmore, the head coach there. What do you know about that team this year?
I tell you what, he has got 6 kids competing for the quarterback spot.
Wow.
Yeah.
That could be a good problem, and that could be a bad problem.
He does. He's got 6 kids competing, but I tell you what, he's got 2 seniors in the backfield, Micah Eskew and Brandon Chambers. Each one of them had 800-plus yards, and they're both two-way players. One had 60 tackles last year. The other had 84 tackles.
Wow.
Very physical team. They got to get some depth up front, but one kid that I wanted to mention is a sophomore named Ben Seymour. Keep an eye out on that kid. He's a sophomore offensive lineman. So if he gets some depth up front and they gel together, he might make some waves.
And Lee, we mentioned, I think this was another region that, despite the fact White House entered week 11 at 9-0, this region was still up in the air, if I remember correctly. Springfield was right there. Greenbrier was right there. Of course, White House did wind up eventually winning that region. So there was 3 teams within striking distance entering week 11 last year. Is that correct?
Yes, that is absolutely correct.
And Springfield, the team that we haven't talked about, was the team that was in Cookeville. Lee Teat, Dustin Wilson, And you talk about a coach that loves his team, man.
He absolutely loves them.
We'll play that interview for you here shortly, but he got choked up after that game, Lee. It was just you could tell it really hurt him that he got his team there and they just wasn't able to get it done. Dayron Johnson, the wide receiver, all-state wide receiver, he's a very heavy, very highly recruited kid in the state of Tennessee. He's back to lead that offense, but
Fat Cat.
Yeah, they were up against
Fat Cat.
Fat Cat. He didn't look at fat to me. He looked pretty
call
lean
him
to me.
Fat Cat. He's a do-it-all guy.
Do-it-all guy. Yeah, he plays both ways. He's
Kick
free
returner.
safety, kick returner, wide receiver. So, yeah, he'll be relied upon heavy as they've only got 4 starters back on that offense, 6 on defense.
Right.
Brian Hayes, another athlete that they're expecting a lot out of. The team has got some talent back, Lee, but they lost a lot.
They did. They lost a lot.
So that region will be interesting. Who else did we not? We didn't hit on Creekwood, Lee, the Red Hawks, 5-6 last season, overall 2-4. They got a lot of starters back, Lee Teat. They got 11 back on offense, 9 on defense. Chase Klotz, wide receiver, tight end. Mitchell Duke, safety. I got J.J. Higgins back, very good linebacker. So I think Creekwood could potentially ease up and get in the mix here.
They could, especially with 11 returning starters on offense and 9 on defense.
That's a lot.
If you look at their roster, man, they still got a ton of juniors.
Right.
So these kids must have been sophomores.
Got early playing time.
Yeah. And they got into a playoff game. That's always a plus with young kids.
Right.
Get them used to that atmosphere. So, yeah, Creekwood could make a push.
And then you got Portland, Lee, the Panthers, Greg Kavanaugh's team. He's 8-33 in 4 years there, 2-8 last year. They hadn't had a lot of success, but you got to like the fact that they've got 8 kids back on offense, 9 on defense. I guess Josh Dutcher is one of the kids that will be leaning on a lot this season.
Yeah, Blake Curtis. Another kid up there that's a pretty good little ball player. I really didn't, man, Portland has been kind of an anomaly to me lately because when I was going to school and back in the day, I don't want to tell you how old I am, but, man, Portland.
I'm older than you, so go right ahead.
Portland was always in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, my friend Scott Klein, he was a quarterback on the team that went to the title game.
Well, Roger Perry was there, correct?
That's right. Coach Perry was there, and
and we know how good a coach he is.
Portland fans, I can tell they're anxious here.
They want rejuvenation.
Yes, sir.
The Panthers. This is a big region, Lee Teat, 7 teams in Montgomery Central. We hadn't hit on them. The Indians, 2-8 last year, 2-4 in region play. They've got 6 starters back on offense, 7 on defense. They do have Ben Dawson back at quarterback. Big Caleb Lane, the defensive lineman, he's a junior. He'll be expected to lead a team. And then finally White House Heritage with a new head coach, Stetson Dickerson. He was the offensive coordinator at Greenback, former White House Heritage assistant. What do you know about him?
Coach Dickerson, like you said, was an OC at Greenbrier. Been there a while. I think that's a very good hire by White House Heritage because he's young, for one thing, and he's going to bring some discipline to the program. I don't foresee them making a huge change this year, but I tell you, they're not going to go 0-10.
6 starters back on both sides of the ball, Jalen Whittam and then Daniel Evans, Parker Deaton, a couple or 2 or 3 names that key returning players for White House Heritage. I think I agree. Maybe not this year, Lee, but they'll improve.
They're a young team.
They are.
I think that's one thing that led him in that direction is he saw what talent's coming up. White House, that area is growing so fast. I think that's a very good hire.
Well, Lee, we've wrapped up Region 5. We just talked about having that Dustin Wilson interview that we had following the game last year up in Cookeville. So we'll go ahead, take a quick break right now, give the listeners a break from us. I'm sure they'll be thankful to have that, Lee. So we'll listen to that interview, and we'll be back in just a minute. Mike Molder, Friday Main Event. Coach, 6th season there at Springfield. Finally get you guys to the big game. How special has that been for you guys this year?
I can't put it in words. I decided to let it go now on my emotions. It's just, it's special, man. I'm a Springfield Yellow Jacket. I love my kids.
Well, Coach, I mean, it's like you told them in the huddle over there. I mean, there's 53 teams that would love to be where you guys are at. I mean, it's amazing what you've been able to do this year. And, my hat's off to you. I can't Big senior class, right?
Yeah, it's 18 or 19 by now, but and it's not no superstars neither. I mean, we don't have people knocking on our doors. Or a teacher walked up to me in the hall the other day and said, "I've got something I want you to be more proud of." It's like a 22.5 on their ACT. It's just kids that want to be successful. It's just, I hate it. It's got to end. That's probably where all the emotions is coming from, because now I got to be their buddy. I can't, tell them what to do or lead them in the right direction anymore. But yeah, it's just a good group of kids, man. It's been fun. I hate it's over.
In the big picture, though, in my opinion, this Greenville team may be the best team I've seen up here. I mean, you guys have got to.
Yeah, it is what it is. You just don't want to lose. No, sit out here to lose. Right. But it happened in the right spot. If it's got to happen, we're in Cookeville. Yeah. There's a bunch of teams and coaches and all that. So, I mean, we're proud. It'll hurt right now until we get home or something. It'll take a minute. But, our brand that I talk about all the time, that SPT brand, it sure was shining bright today.
Nothing to hang your head about, Coach. Good game for you kids.
Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate
Congrats,
it.
Buddy. All right, Lee, that was Springfield head coach Dustin Wilson following that loss to obviously a very good Greenville team. He pretty obvious by the interview, pretty shook up, but tough loss, but it was expected. I think everybody thought they didn't have much of a chance against that Greenville squad, and it proved out to be that way.
I would agree with that.
Lee, we're going to move on to Region 6. We got Lexington winning that region. They were 8-4, 4-1 in region play. 5 starters back on offense, 6 on defense. And Lee, the Tigers, Coach Hollingsworth's squad, how do you like them this year?
I think they'll probably a 1 or a 2 in that region, first or second in that region, I would think. Jackson Southside and them both were 4-1 last year in the region. I think overall record or some tiebreaker or something. I can't remember how it went down.
Right.
He's got Braxton Grice as a junior as a quarterback. A lot of sophomores on that roster. A lot of up front. So does that make a difference?
Yeah, it's hard to say, Lee Teat, but they did. They got knocked out by Springfield in the second round, 18-14 score. And I don't know that the Tigers actually, I think they'll be okay this year. I mean, I'm kind of beating around the bush and ham-hocking here, but I believe Lexington's going to be pretty good this year. I think Hollingsworth is a really good coach. He's 88-34 in 10 years there at Lexington, Lee. So Lexington's got a really good tradition of winning football, and I think they're there again this year, to be honest with you. Moving down to Jackson Southside, the Hawks, Tyler Reeder, 9-11 in 2 years there, Lee. They were 8-5 last year. As you mentioned, they were in lost out on the tiebreaker. Actually, I think they lost a heads up. Yeah, lost heads up to Lexington. They both were 4-1, but they did lose heads up to Lexington, which put them in the second spot. They lost. They did make it all the way to the quarterfinals, though. The same Springfield team. Springfield knocked out the top 3 teams in this region.
They did.
Single-handedly. They beat Hardin County first round, Lexington second round, so they were a Region 6 killer last year.
They had their number.
They did. But Jackson Southside, getting back to them, 7 starters back on offense, 5 on defense. Devin Bowers would be the headliner here, All-State last year, linebacker. He's going to be leaned on heavily to lead that defense this year, Lee.
I think so, and Austin Clark is a fullback there, and Tyler Carver, quarterback, senior leadership.
Mm-hmm.
There we go again. Probably a 2 seed.
I like the Hawks, but I agree with you. I don't think they're going to have enough coming back to knock Lexington off. I think Lexington probably takes this region again next year. Hardin County was the 3rd-place team in the region, 6-5, 3-2 overall. Matthew Smith, 47-31 in his 7 years there at Hardin County. The Tigers, 5 starters back on offense, 6 on defense. Tyler Harden, big offensive lineman, one of several offensive linemen that'll be – well, no, wait a minute. I think they were diminished, weren't they, Lee? They lost a lot of linemen. I take that back. Defensively, they had a lot of returning starters, but offensively on that line, going to have to rebuild.
Yeah, they're very young, too. Quarterback's a sophomore. Tailback, John Whitley's a sophomore. Some juniors mixed in there.
John Whitley, the sophomore running back. I think they're expecting big things out of him.
That's right.
So, they'll be, I think, a playoff contender again this year, Lee. I don't know if they
how far they'll push into it.
Exactly. Chester County, the Eagles, Steve Robertson, he was defensive coordinator the past 4 years. He takes over as head coach now. 4-7 last year, 2-3 in region play. They do have a lot of kids back on both sides of the ball. 8 starters back on both sides of the ball. Peyton Doyles is one of the big two-way players, senior. They're expected a lot of leadership out of.
That's right. Dalton Farley's a DB senior. Jackson Thomas, linebacker's a junior. Jack Cagle, senior quarterback, and Nick Wallace, offensive line senior.
So at 2-3 in the region league, they may potentially move up a notch or two.
I could see that.
Yeah, they definitely could do that. And again, they lost to Chester County in the first round as the 4 seed last year. So I think they're a legit playoff team again this year, potentially moving up 3rd, possibly 2nd seed.
Right.
Moving on down, Lee, Jackson Northside, a pretty rough year for the Indians last year. They have a new head coach, Jesse Powell. He was an assistant the last 3 seasons there. 1-9 last year, 1-4 in region play. Got a lot of kids returning starters, but again, off a 1-9 team.
Yep, they got Kelvin Albea, the D-line senior, Steve Collins, linebacker, Everett Charles, wide receiver, Nakia Mercer, athlete. I heard he's a very good athlete too. So
okay, and then rounding down, boy, how the strong have fallen. Lee, Liberty Magnet in the title game, was it the year before last? Or 2 years ago?
Maybe 2 or 3 years back.
It hadn't been more than a couple of years, I don't think, Lee. But at any rate, the Crusaders now 1-8. They did lose their head coach, Orinthius Taylor. Is that correct? Are you gonna go with that?
Orinthius Taylor.
He was in his first year last year at as a head coach. 1-8 again, 1-4 in region play. You got 5 starters back on both sides of the ball. I don't think. I don't know. That's a traditionally really good program, but I don't know. What do you think? What's your thoughts?
I think they're going to be very athletic.
Right.
With him 8-32, 1-8 in his first year at Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
I don't expect them to be 1-8 again.
Right.
I just don't see them right now pressing that region to get into a playoff spot.
Now he was with Telly White at Tresvan, I believe, and then took that job last year when it come open late in the season. So does he get another shot if they don't do any better this year? What are your thoughts?
I would give him one more year.
One more year?
Yeah,
well,
I would.
I think Liberty, that's typically a very good
yeah.
bed for athletic talent, so I think they're going to expect an improvement this year. Moving into Region 7, Haywood County, the Tomcats, Steve Hookfin, very good coach. They did make it to the semifinals last year, and DeCourtney Reed back at running back, 2,000 rushing yards and 35 TDs. He's an all-state player, really, really good-looking football player. 7 starters back on offense, 8 on defense. I like the Tomcats.
I do too. If you're a Haywood County fan, man, go watch them because it's going to be a good season for them. You addressed DeCourtney Reed. Kids averaging over 10 yards a carry.
That's crazy
over
good, man.
10 yards a carry.
And then Darian Williamson, another really good junior coming in this year. He'll be expected to be one of the leaders on that linebacking squad. A lot of good talent for Haywood Lee, and I think Coach Hookfin probably one of the favorites to go to Cookeville on that side of the bracket.
I would definitely think so.
Yeah. Moving on down, Lee, Crockett County, the Cavaliers, 10-3 last year, 3-1. They made it to the quarterfinals. They got knocked out by Haywood County.
Right.
Haywood actually knocked them off twice last year. They've got 5 starters back on offense, 2 on defense. Eli Myrick, the wide receiver, and Josh Owens, the junior linebacker, along with Nate Sarver, make up a good young defensive middle there for this Cavalier squad.
Yes, they do. And then they have, on the opposite side of the ball, they have Zach Stevenson at offensive line, who's a junior, and then 2 seniors in Sam Myrick and Braven Harton.
So solid up front.
Solid.
Need some new skill positions and need some secondary help.
Probably, in my opinion, a solid number 2 in 7-4A.
Bryan County, the Rebels finished up 3rd. Lee, they fell to Haywood County also in the second round. Haywood was just destroyed their own region in the postseason play, it looks like.
Yeah.
The Rebels, Paul Decker's squad, 5-7 last year, 2-2. Return a whole lot on defense, Lee, but not a lot on offense this year.
No, two offensive players coming back. What do you do with that?
I don't know. Luke Garrigan, a two-way player for those guys, a senior. He'll be one of the leaders there. I think Ethan Schultz will be another. He's a linebacker. Another kid expected to be one of those senior leaders in addition with Jackson Jones. So they've got some good talent back, Lee, but I don't know. 5-7 they may not see that again this year.
I doubt it.
Dyersburg is a team that I think is going to be very, very solid. As a matter of fact, we'll get into them a lot more later on in the show. But the Trojans, Bart Stokes' team, he always does a really good job. They're 124-75 overall, 69-35 in 8 years at Dyersburg, and they're a perennial playoff team. Lee, 8-4 last year, 1-3. They were in every game they played. They wound up losing a lot of close games. 8 starters back on offense. They've got a Memphis commitment, and Chris Russell is a running back, a linebacker, very, very good tailback. He'll be the leader of that offense and defense this year.
I think you're right. And, of course, they got Davion Henderson, senior linebacker running back. And then also Reed Bona, who's a linebacker, who's a senior. So defensively, I feel like Dyersburg is going to be very stout. And anytime, like we've discussed this, wing tee, ball control, with Chris Russell running the football, they're going to win some games.
And, Lee, you got Justin Brown, Cedric Curry, Sky Hickman, all these senior guys on that line, Landry Burden, and I may be mispronouncing that, sorry. We prefaced this show with that, Lee, but what I'm getting at is a lot of senior guys that have been on that line, 2-year starters on the line, and this is what you look for. When you're looking for a team that's going to make a deep run,
Yes.
you look for senior guys returning on the line. You can get skill players, but to get a cohesive unit up front on the defense and the offense, that's hard to do in high school football.
Do you see Dyersburg at the 2 spot or the 3?
I've got Dyersburg pretty high up, my friend. Matter of fact, they may be peaking in the Friday main event top 10. We'll reveal that later, but I think Dyersburg is going to have a good year. Ripley, 2-8, 0-4 in region. 5 starters back on offense, 6 on defense. Tyler Ross at quarterback. I don't think Ripley's going to be able to do much moving this year, Lee.
I don't think so, but man, what a first job! 28 years old, head coach.
How about that?
That's pretty good.
That is good, but is that more of a credit to him, or is that more of the situation that the program's in that they couldn't get anybody with more experience?
I don't know. I like those young guys.
I do too. But I'm with you though. At a 4A school, you don't typically see anybody getting an opportunity at that age, that early.
Right.
So, but who knows? 2-8, 0-4, Lee. I don't think Ripley, even despite the fact they've got Tyler Ross back at quarterback, senior, I don't think they do a lot of improvement this year. Tough region. Memphis East, Lee, won Region 8 last year. They were knocked out in the first round by Dyersburg. Matter of fact, this was another region that got swept in the first round.
Oh, yeah.
Region 7 swept by Region 8. They got Katari Donald, the new head coach. He was a former head coach at Kingsbury and MAHS. He's now at Memphis East. That's an interesting hire right there, Lee. 5-6, 3-0. That team is eat up with talent. They got the number 31 recruit to state, Sean Adams. They've got Tariq Barnes, a linebacker, really good-looking football player, 6'2", 205, 37 rated recruit. He transferred in from Cordova. So Memphis East, pretty good-looking ball team.
Yeah. Did Mullins, did he transfer to Whitehaven?
He transferred to Whitehaven. He wanted to play for Rodney Salisbury. Imagine that.
Number 21 recruit in the country.
Yeah.
So that was a big loss.
That was a big loss.
For East.
That was a huge loss for East.
But, hey, they got Jalen Wright, quarterback, sophomore. Kevon Dukes, wide receiver, is a junior. So.
And I misspoke, Lee. Tariq Barnes actually transferred to Cordova. eyesight's not what it used to be. But yeah, that's two big losses they had.
Two big losses.
Two big losses. My bad. Sorry about that. But
I still expect them to be there, top of that region. They're so talented.
Yeah, and it's a weak region, so that's an advantage right there. But yeah, they lost a lot of big recruits. My apologies to the listeners. I misread that. But Craigmont, the Chiefs, Cecil Van Hooks, 7 offensive starters and 5 defensive starters returned for the Chiefs. So. They may wind up taking over, considering the fact that Memphis East lost so many players. Lee, I don't know. This region is really down. I think top
this is
to
the
bottom.
thing where I have a problem with this type of region. How can you go 1-10, 0-3 in the region and make it to the playoffs?
Well, you have a 4-team region.
I don't like that.
You have the same thing in 6A with Whitehaven, Memphis Central, Germantown, and White Station, a 4-team, and ironically, all the region teams region games are the last 3 weeks of the season.
Right.
So their whole playoff positioning is determined in the last 3 weeks of the season. I don't like it either.
I wish there was a better way to do this because our buddy at Mount Pleasant,
7-3.
7-3, don't get to play.
Didn't get to play. It's messed up. It's totally
like
messed
that.
up. I don't know what the answer is, but I agree with you. It's messed up. Lee, finishing at that region.
Sorry, I got on a tangent.
No problem, my friend. Hey, this is a podcast, essentially a YouTube channel broadcast, so we're not any time restraints. So if you can come back. If you're getting tired of watching, brother, you can just click on it and you can watch the rest of it later. So we're not going to try to narrow this show down. We want to get it. We want it to be informative, Lee. So if we run over, sorry, folks. But again, click the pause. Go get you a bite to eat and come back. We're talking football right here.
That's right.
Fayette Word, the Wildcats, new head coach Michael Hootem. Am I saying that right?
Yep.
You'll go with that? Okay. 3-8 last year, 1-2 in region play. Of course, he's a new head coach. He's a former head coach at Chester County and Trinity Christian. So that was – I'm thinking I'm saying that wrong, Lee, but we're going to go with that. But at any rate, I think it was a good hire for the Wildcats. We're only showing and of course, we're getting our information on returning starters from our good buddy Donovan Stewart, who does an amazing job with the high school football, and another weird place in the show for me to talk about this. But we noticed that only 2 starters are shown as returning on this team. But Donovan Stewart did a great job. Go to FridayMainEvent.com, click on the links tab. You'll see a place where you can subscribe to Donovan Stewart's stuff and get everything he writes sent directly to you. You're not going to find anybody in the state of Tennessee that's going to give you more and better and accurate coverage than Donovan. Millington, Lee, the Trojans, Chris Michael, head coach, 1-10, 0-3. They were knocked out of the playoffs 55-0 by Haywood. 1-10. Why in the hell were they in the playoffs anyway? But that kind of goes back to what you were talking about.
It just bothers me.
It bothers me too. I would just soon see them to forfeit than to go see a team get destroyed. And Utica over in 1A is a prime example. They didn't want to play Greenback 2 years ago. It was absolutely ludicrous for the TSSAA to expect a team like Millington, who had a bad season. I'm not indicting the program. It is what it is. Had to go to Haywood County, a very good team, and lose 55-0 in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Why? What's the point? Okay, let's get back. Let's get back on topic here, Lee. I got my rant. You got your rant. We're good to go now, right?
That's right.
5 starters on offense, 6 on defense. Tommy Clifton, quarterback, back for Millington, along with Corey Smith, Kyle Lindley. And again, Lee, we're not slamming kids. I don't want that to be misconstrued.
No.
But it's kind of like, you got an NFL team that's 0-16. Why would you send them to the Super Bowl against the New England Patriots? It doesn't make any sense. But, again, I'm sure there's great kids there. We're not slamming the kids. We're merely stating that the talent, obviously 55-0, there was a huge discrepancy in talent. So why are we playing this game?
That's right.
All right, Lee. Well, that was a good segment. I enjoyed that. Got all that off my chest. I feel better about it.
All right.
But it is now time for the Friday Main Event Top 10. But before that, we need to go to a break, and we want to talk about our buddy, Jim Thompson, Coach T. We appreciate Coach T backing all these shows. He's allowed us to tie in with them this year, which, in my opinion, Lee, that was probably the biggest compliment we could have gotten, having a guy like Coach T, Jim Thompson, wanting to join up with us and let everybody know about these broadcasts and put his name, associate his name to us.
Very thankful for it.
Very thankful, and that's a huge compliment to what we do, I think. So, Lee, let's go ahead and let's let the listeners hear a little bit about Coach T, and we'll be back right after this. Okay, folks, if you're watching this video, you're obviously a big high school football fan like us. When Lee and I started this channel up, one of the first guys we felt we needed to reach out to and try to join us in this venture was Jim Thompson. I know most of you guys know him as Coach T. Jim was a visionary. He knew back in 1998 the internet was going to continue to grow, and he started his website, CoachT.com, at that time. Now, his commitment to high school sports has provided one of the best sources for information and entertainment across the state when it's involving high school sports in general. I know I became a member back in 2007, and I'm closing in on 10,000 posts now on the website, so I strongly urge you guys to visit this website. Once you see what the website has to offer and you fall in love with it like I have, you're going to want to look at the Coach T Plus membership. That's only $24 a year, and if you break that down, I think it works out to 46 cents a week. I mean, you can't even get a pack of gum for that now. So a lot of things, a lot of advantages to being a Plus member. One, obviously, you lose the annoying pop-up ads. They're gone once you become a Plus member, and you get access to some restricted boards. Other non-paying members don't have access to these boards, so you got a lot more access to the website. One of my favorite features is you have the ability to edit and correct schedules. So if your high school team has a game incorrectly posted, has a score incorrectly posted, you're allowed as a Plus member to go in and correct that. So a lot of things about being a Plus member that you'll enjoy. So I strongly urge you to look into that. Lee and I, again, we love Coach T, and we appreciate everything that he does for high school sports. All right, Lee, that was Coach T spot. We appreciate Jim Thompson, everything he's doing here for Coach T. Great to have our name associated with Coach T, the best high school football, not only football, like you mentioned, football, soccer, baseball, softball, every high school sport, even bowling, fishing.
Bass fishing.
I
like checking that out.
They have got a section for every sport on that high school football message board that I enjoy getting on and just reading. It's good.
A lot of info.
It's good entertainment.
Good
a lot
banner.
Good. Yes, it is.
A lot of good banner back and forth.
I've had a little banner with a few people on Coach T, but it's all good. We met, we shook hands. And,
that's right.
And Lee, I've traveled a lot of ball games and talked to people and met on Coach T, and we actually had a Coach T text group when my kid was playing high school. This was all people within our region that I met through Coach T, and we would take scores back and forth.
Right.
So it's a very good social website. It's a very good information website. It's good entertainment. CoachT.com. My buddy Jim Thompson, he had the insight and the, he knew that this internet thing was going to be big back in '96, and he bought into this website,
right.
And now it's huge, and it's very entertaining. We appreciate him jumping on with us. Lee, it's time for the Friday Main Event Top 10 4A edition, and we're going to get started. We're going to jump right in with 4 teams that you and I had just outside our top 10, and we'll start off with Macon County new head coach Kyle Shoulders. I think Macon County is going to be a really good, solid squad again this year.
I do too, and a great hire by Macon County. Kyle's a Macon County guy. That first ball game of the year, I think Coach Shoulders is going to go to the Smith County squad and try to get a win. Mm-hmm. Especially some of those returning players are going to want that win too, because last year Smith County went up there and spanked them 39-22.
Got spanked, didn't they, Lee?
And Macon County had an all-state quarterback
right
last year there.
Seth Carlisle.
Wow. Great ball player. He's gone, but they're going to look at that, and I think Kyle Shoulders wants to get that first win under his belt.
I think they were expected to win that game last year,
they were.
Wouldn't you say?
They were.
So, yeah, I agree with you. I think it'll be a big game, big revenge game for the Tigers of Macon County. Sullivan South up in Region 1, Lee, despite the fact that they're in that tough Region 1 with Greenville and Elizabethton, I think they got a chance to have a very good team. That was the only two region losses were to those two squads last year. In all likelihood, the same happens this year. But I think if Sullivan South had been placed in any other region, potentially they would do very well. But as it is, they're in Region 1 and no real shot at winning, but I still think they've got a great squad.
Yeah, pencil in October the 19th against Elizabethton. Man, 2 losses in the region. If they were to be able to squeak by Elizabethton,
home field in the first round, and it's a possibility. I mean, everything's got to go right. I don't think they got quite the talent level, but it's always possible. Livingston Academy, Bruce Lamb's squad, they won Region 3 last year. Lee Teat, 4-0 record there in the region. They were knocked out by Nolensville, one of 2 number 1 seeds to get knocked out in the first round in Class 4A. But this is a new season, 6 starters back on offense, 7 on defense. I like the Wildcats of Livingston Academy.
I do too. They pretty much dominated Region 3 last year. Big matchup the last Friday night of the season against Macon County. Could very well be playing for a region title. I know DeKalb is in that mix. I think they'll be in that mix, but that ball game could be the region title game.
I agree with that, Lee. And then the last team that we've got in the also rans out of our top 10 is Dyersburg, and I think Bart Stowe, again, very good team. They're in a pretty solid Region 7. I think they wound up finish up toward the bottom of that region last year at 1-3, but with 8 starters back on offense, led by Chris Russell, the all-state running back, Memphis commitment. I think you got to like the Trojans this year. Lost some close games last year, but I think they got a good chance this year.
I think so too. A big game for them is going to be on October the 26th against Crockett County. They lost by 1 last year at home.
Correct.
They were at home to Crockett County. Can they go on the road and avenge that loss?
That would be a good one. If you're over in that part of the state, that'd probably be a good one to mark on your calendar to go check out. Lee, starting our top 10 at number 10, we've got that very tough Region 4, swept Region 3, as we mentioned. I think it's going to be stronger this year. It's
top to bottom.
Top to bottom is going to be tough, man. And Spring Hill is one of those teams I think has a really good chance to win the region title there, especially now that they've added Bubba Johnson, the big transfer from Page. He was a lot of the offense there for Page last year. Now at Spring Hill, he'll be able to fill in that gap voided with Dante Smith graduating.
Right, and I tell you what, they lost to Maplewood by 3 last year. Marshall County by a touchdown. So 10 points
between them and the region title.
Between them and the region title. And I'll tell you what, Bubba Johnson might be them 10 points.
I agree, man. I really
because
like.
They're returning 9 guys on offense.
It's the Raiders are going to be good, man. They're definitely going to be in the mix, no doubt, there in that region. Lee, at number 9, we've got Chattanooga Central, the Pounders. Kurt Jones, new head coach there. I think with the talent he's got back, led by Mike McGahee, the running back, all-state running back. I like Chattanooga Central out of Region 2. I think they're going to contend for that region title.
I think so. Interesting game for me is East Ridge on the 5th of October. They just got a lot of talent, man. Chattanooga Central does. That's a traditional with Courtney Braswell there.
Right.
Great coach. Those kids hadn't forgotten how to play football.
Right.
So, yeah, I see them as a 9.
I think they're going to be
9.
there. And unfortunately, they're in with Anderson County.
Right.
But I think they're a solid 2 in that region. And therefore, being in a tough region, you got to consider them for a top 10. We've got them at number 9. Moving up to number 8, we've got Region 6, perennial favorite, Lexington. Bryant Hollingsworth's squad, again, Lee, 8-4 last year. 4-1. They were knocked out by Springfield in the second round, but with 5 starters back on offense, 6 back on defense, I think Lexington's going to be a team to contend with this year.
I do too. Ironically, they only lost 1 game last year, and that was to Liberty, and that was Liberty's only win.
That's
kind of weird.
We talked about how Liberty was down so much last year, but Did Lexington have some key players out that game? I would like to know the inside. I didn't get the story on that game, but how does Liberty get one win, and that one win counts for Lexington's only loss in region play?
Right, so 31st.
Very unusual.
31st.
There's got to be something we don't know about what happened there last year, but I like Hollingsworth's team to do well in Region 6. Springfield, the Region 5 winners last year, and in Cookeville, we talked to Coach Wilson there. I think we've got them at number 7. They don't have a lot coming back, but they do have Darian Johnson back, and he's a phenomenal athlete. And we've got the Jackets at number 7.
Yep, and the biggest matchup for them coming in, I think, is that White House Blue Devil game on the 14th. I think White House beat them 16-14.
Yes.
Last year.
I think I just misspoke, didn't I, Lee? That they did finish behind White House in that region.
So I think Springfield's going to look to avenge that loss. And obviously, anytime you're been to the finals, hey, and you got your main dog back, you're going to be in the top 10.
Anything can happen. Lee at number 6, we've got Marshall County. We had them a couple of spots higher than that prior to the announcement of Bryce Wallace transferring, and I wouldn't normally drop a team a couple of spots based on one player, but when it's a returning starter or a 3-year starter at quarterback, you got to wonder who's going to be able to step in and fill those shoes. Coach Thomas Osteen, we over and over and over again, we talk about how much we like Coach Osteen and how great a job he does. That's not changed. We're still big fans of his, but given the fact that Bryce Wallace transferred late, midsummer, matter of fact, over to Giles County, how much correction and how much adjustments have they had time to do to that offense?
Well, I mean, I definitely feel like they're deserving of the number 6 spot in our top 10 because of Coach Osteen's coaching ability, and he does have a lot of talent. Jay-Sean Wilcox, we talked about earlier, he's got a good running back core. Maplewood on the 14th will be.
It could potentially be for the region title, Lee.
That's going to be a big ball game for them.
I think so too. Then, like we said, the region's loaded. Nolensville, Spring Hill,
right.
Who knows? But yeah, I'd say that those two teams right now, most would have them picked 1-2, 2-1, however it works out. And matter of fact, speaking of Maplewood, Lee, that is our number 5 team in the Friday main event top 10. The Panthers are Sente Broom, a good friend of the show. He's been on with us several times. He's got 8 starters back on both sides of the ball, Lee, and he's got a senior quarterback, All-State, Bobo Hodges. You got to love that.
Oh, yeah. In 28th at Spring Hill, Panthers won last year by 3. We just talked about.
He's got Scurry as well.
Yes, that's right, and that's
transfer
huge.
from Independence.
That's huge.
Right.
I like Maplewood. I really do.
I do too.
They,
I like
they
them
may
a lot.
make it.
I like them, Lee.
Ball bounces.
You're talking about representing the West. Oh no, they're not going to make it, Lee. They're in Region 4. Region 4 goes east.
Yeah, I know. They may.
Region 4 goes east with Greenville.
I know.
With Anderson County.
I think
with Elizabethton.
I think they got some athletes.
Woo, brother, that's a big statement.
Because if they can run the region they're in.
If they was in Region 5, I'd be all in.
You know what I'm saying? If they run Region 4, though,
yeah,
that's one of the toughest regions, top to
doubt,
bottom.
No doubt.
I think they're going to be playoff ready, battle tested. I can see them getting close.
I see them getting to semifinals.
Yes.
I'll go with you on that.
Real close.
I'll go with you on that.
Real
see them
close.
semifinals. I don't see them knocking off whoever comes out of Region 1 and 2, though. But who knows? It is high school football. Haywood County, Lee Teat, number 4.
Number 4.
The Tomcats, Steve Hookfin, and I really like what Hookfin does. 81-41 overall. He's one of the really good coaches on the west side of the state. Again, Region 7, 11-3 last year, 4-1 in region play. He's got DeCourtney Reed, the running back, over 2,000 yards and 35 TDs all-state. So a lot of talent there at Haywood. I like their chances.
The Dyersburg game on the 14th will be the biggest region game for them.
I agree with that.
I like Haywood County, too, out of the West.
You like them out of the West?
Yes, sir.
I can't argue with you, and the reason why I say that is because at number 3, we have Elizabethton Lee Teat, and that's that Region 4 team in that battle, and we get to see them. Dude, we get to see them. We're headed up there. I'm really excited about that game. That along with that South Pittsburgh game against Marion County is probably the two games I'm most excited about to go see this year. But I think they've got a shot at Greenville. Do you think they have a shot?
Yes, with Carter Everett at quarterback, I do, and Evan Perkins at wideout, and Corey Russell.
Corey Russell, he was over 1,100 yards, 18 TDs. They got the offense, Lee.
They got the offense. It's can they stop them on defense? And potential trap game.
Okay.
For Elizabethton is Sullivan South on the 19th.
Gotcha.
Because a week prior to that, they're coming off a battle with Greenville.
Okay.
That's going to be an interesting game to me.
Gotcha. I agree with that. So Elizabethton, we got at number 3, Lee, and moving on up, I would say this is probably the top 2 for most people in the state. We've got Anderson County, the Mavericks, Davy Gillum's team. We've got them at number 2, and Stanton Martin. Is he going to be ready to go, Lee? That's going to be the big question mark for Maverick fans.
I think if I'm Coach Gillum, I'm nursing him through, but being very careful with how I play him early.
I'm not going to rush him back.
I'm not going to rush him back. I think they're going to be able to, for the most part, teams that they're playing, they're going to be able to handle pretty handily. Last year they won every game by an average of 48 points.
Right.
I'm going to try to keep Stanton healthy till the playoffs.
I agree with that. So, in all likelihood, if you and I are coaching, he's not going to go week 1. Just to be, caution on the edge, on the side of not getting him injured. So, having said that, I think with a healthy Stanton Martin, they're probably only one of 2 teams that can hang with our number 1 team. And no big surprise here, we've got the Greenville Green Devils with 8 starters back on both sides of the ball. Mr. Football winner Cade Ballard behind center. We like the Green Devils to repeat.
I do, especially with Mr. Football at the helm, Cade Ballard. A lot of people maybe have not seen Cade like we have. He is so strong.
He is. He's just,
for his size,
a rock.
He is unbelievably strong. And even what makes that even more impressive is he's a quarterback.
Right.
I mean, he is shredded, man.
I told you last year, Lee, up in Cookville, if that kid was 6'3", 6'4", every college in the country would be after.
Oh, every one of them.
Every one of them.
We obviously have Greenville at number 1 because they have so much talent. Dorian Goddard, Cameron Height, Chris Everhart. All these kids are all state.
Mm-hmm. Greenville. All right, that's the Friday main event top 10. We hope you guys appreciate and enjoy this show. Lee and I appreciate you guys watching the show.
Yes.
Again, as we've said before, we need you to subscribe to the channel. That's the only way YouTube recognizes that you have a successful channel. It's all gauged upon subscriptions, Lee. So we need subscriptions. We want to keep this going. We want to give the kids extra exposure. We want to give the coaches extra exposure. We want to give the programs extra exposure. That's the only reason why we're doing this. You making any money at this, Lee?
No, sir.
Neither am I. So
but I love it.
I love it too. I mean, that's not why we're in it.
I hope they understand.
We're in it for the kids, and we're in it for the schools. So again, the only thing we're asking of you guys is to subscribe. So we got a way to gauge interest in the show, and as long as we have a good subscriber count, we're going to do it. We're going to do it every week, and we're going to bring you high school coaches. We're going to bring you game summaries, game recaps, game analysis in the pregame. So we love it, and we hope you guys love it. So again, hit the like button at the bottom of the video, subscribe, and we're good, Lee Teat.
We're good.
All right, well, this is Mike Molder. He is Lee Teat, Friday main event. We'll catch you guys tomorrow for the Class 5A region preview. We're out.